Well, good afternoon and welcome to H360 Live. My name is Dave Duplay, and joining me here in the studio this afternoon is my friend and colleague from Healthy O360, Miss Courtland Long. Well, Courtland, great to see you.
Good to see you, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now, I happened to look outside right before the show, and I noticed there's some snow coming down.
Yes, there is.
Well, it's the end of January, and we are here in New York City, and I guess we can expect that.
We can. We haven't had that big snowstorm yet, so maybe that's coming today.
It's on its way. Well, you know what this Thursday is, don't you?
What's that?
It's Groundhog Day.
Oh.
Punxsutawney Phil's going to come out. Whether he sees a shadow or not is to be debated, but we'll see if we're going to have more winter weather ahead or if we are going to get
An early spring.
An early spring.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Well, we have a great show for you today. We have Angel Rey coming into the studio, and I have been waiting for this show for quite some time. Angel, we met a while back last year at a walk here in New York City, and he is such an inspirational guy. He's going to be talking to us about brain cancer. He's going to be talking about his music career. He is an outspoken advocate partnering with Stupid Cancer, which is a great organization. We're friends of theirs. And at the end of the show, you're going to want to stick around for this because he is going to perform his award-winning song called Stepping Forward. It is going to be a great show. Courtland, I think we got to get started.
I know. I'm really excited for this show. Well, Angel, thank you so much for joining us today. As Dave mentioned, we had the pleasure of meeting you at the American Brain Tumor Association 5K. Yeah. That was such a fun day. It was great to meet you and learn a little bit about your story, but we really want to get into it today. And we know that more than 79,000 cases of brain tumors are expected to be diagnosed this year. So before we kind of get into some of those facts and figures, can you tell us a little bit about your early life and your interest in music?
Absolutely. Music is like my best friend in the whole world. And I always say that I was that geeky, loud mouth, always singing, and just making up songs, making up scenes. A lot of, like theater was a big inspiration. I had a music teacher, Mr. Amen, who introduced me to Little Shop of Horrors. And so all of that performance, just listening to artists like Whitney Houston. I always say she taught me how to sing. I played out my Bodyguard soundtrack that I got as a bootleg copy. So yeah, music, it was everything. In my household, I would hear classical and Latin music, and then with my cousins, it was hip hop and R&B. So, you always saw me doing chorus, and I would have a lot of solos. And it wasn't, I guess, until college that I even studied more of it. So I did a cappella. I got to study jazz and classical music. And in college is where I started writing. So, yeah.
Interesting. So, Angel, you mentioned Whitney Houston for one.
Yeah.
What are some of the other musicians that you really study and that really influence the way that you sing and the way that you write songs? And can you share with me who some of those might be, and in what way, when you listen to them, how do they influence what you're doing in music?
Well, Stevie Wonder is a very big inspiration. Brandy, they call her the vocal Bible, because of all those runs that she does, and she inspired me because we were so close in age, and so to see someone that young sing that way. Prince, just in his artistry, just the way he thinks, and all the different moves, and just the art behind his music, and also just his musicianship. A lot of that, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Tower of Power, all these, they all just cultivated a feeling of you have to feel it when you're singing. And I think that's the most important lesson as a vocalist, is you're telling a story. And so as many people would have the belief that it's not what you say, how you say it. And so I feel like these artists were just, it was so genuine, and they were true to themselves. And so when I hear them in any capacity, that influenced how I do my work as a vocalist, as a lyricist. So
Well, Angel, we know that your 30th birthday took an interesting turn of events.
Yeah.
Ultimately, how you came to be involved with Stupid Cancer and the American Brain Tumor Association. Can you kind of take us back to that time and tell us, what was leading up to that day?
Yes, I had these really massive migraines, and I kept going to different doctors, and all they said, just take painkillers for it, Excedrin. And I don't like taking over-the-counter medication, but at the time it was so bad that I was taking that, and even other painkillers that different doctors I went to. I found out I was diagnosed incorrectly. There was one doctor that said, let's do an MRI scan, and that's when they saw there was a tumor. And just the timing with everything, I basically started having seizures that day, and with that, they rushed me to the hospital, and immediately just drilled a hole in my head. I found that I was having hydrocephalus, so the liquid in the brain wasn't circulating properly, and that was all caused by a tumor, which we later found to be a germinoma cell brain tumor.
So hydrocephalus, when the water around the brain doesn't circulate properly in the fluid, it causes a great deal of pain.
Yes, it just on my cranium, it was pounding, and
Yeah.
it just didn't have anywhere to go. So.
And how long were you experiencing these headaches before you actually sought medical help?
Probably a week or so, but it was just a month of it happening and nobody diagnosing it correctly. And it was one of those things where it's just a massive headache. That's really, and I would feel a little nauseous at times. So it just didn't seem like it was anything that serious. And a lot of doctors were, once we did find out what it was, those doctors they said, this is the kind of case we always fear, because the symptoms don't seem to be that life-threatening, yet mine were. So.
And what was you said you were misdiagnosed once. What was the misdiagnosis? Was it just migraine headache was the diagnosis?
One doctor said it was a personality disorder.
Huh.
I remember the prescription they told me to take, I just refused it, and it wasn't until, I guess, the next day, I'm speaking to my mother on the phone. I was living in Brooklyn at the time, and we have a family friend who suggested we go to her doctor, and that specific doctor was the first and only one to say, let's do a scan of your brain.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So
Yeah.
you land in the hospital surrounded by your family and friends. You hear this news that you have a brain tumor and it's very life-threatening. Like, what's going through your mind? What are you thinking? How do you process this information?
Well, before anyone even came into the room, I'm waking up and I'm like, oh my God, it's my 30th birthday. And I might sound like a loser right now, but I sang happy birthday to myself.
Wow.
And that was just a way to empower myself in that moment. And, family slowly came in, and I had my closest friends there, and I just knew I had to pay it forward some way, and that I would like to help others who are dealing with this and who have near-death situations, or help them heal in whatever way. I didn't think of how I could, but I just knew that I wanted to help people, because I lived to see another day, and I'm here for a reason. So it was just a very, very humbling day. Absolutely.
So Angel, so you wake up, you're in the hospital, you realize it's your birthday, and the doctors, your family's coming in, your friends are coming in, the doctors come in and they sit down and they say, look, here's what it is, and did they explain to you, or what did they say was the path forward for you?
Well, they weren't too sure of what kind of tumor it was. There was a lot of uncertainties, and as they were telling me, I remember it was kind of like water in the ear, swimmer's ear. I just would tune out. I'd be like, what is happening right now? So it was tough. I would get very frustrated. I remember I was feeling helpless, and it was a lot to take in, definitely. Very overwhelming. So it was just a mixture of everything, really.
So before the show, we were talking a little bit about the healing power of music and a little bit about music therapy. What role did music play during this really difficult time of your life and during treatment?
My writing was completely affected because of this experience, and I just wrote a lot. And what I felt, sometimes I would just come up with a melody, and I would go with that, and it was truly a cathartic way. It was a release, and I would listen to more inspirational music, and someone like Stevie Wonder, he writes a lot of great things that can really inspire more peacefulness and serenity. And so I sought that more, and there was many times I would just sit there and just listen to music that I liked, and all the artists I mentioned before, and then I learned of new artists that, like Lake Street Dive. That's one band that I listened to their album while I was in the hospital for like every day, pretty much, their debut album. So it was very integral to my recovery, and so with the writing, it just developed into the album that I was able to release last year. And that spoke a lot of, mostly dealing with that, but also just the growing pains of, I guess, a 20-year-old becoming 30 and all those things. I talked a lot about things I feel a lot of people will be able to relate to.
So what, I'm curious, what were some of the growing pains that you were feeling, and now you're 30 and you're laying in a hospital bed and you're given this diagnosis? Did you begin to think about your career? Did you think about your relationships with other people? What were some of those growing pains you were experiencing?
Oh, absolutely. Just not being sure if I can continue singing, how would I feel? Certain friendships that I thought were genuine, or with people that I felt I was close to, kind of becoming more distant with others, not being understood. I just was, I was very nervous, very fearful, and I didn't know how I would be getting back to doing the gigs that I was doing once a week. So yeah, I was just, I wanted to, if anything, feel as normal as possible. For example, I kept doing my gigs even as I was having radiation therapy. But as it went on, I realized that I was kind of dismissing things I should have faced head on. When you're, becoming 30, my friends were all getting married, and I wasn't seeing anyone. I was still figuring out where I'm going to take myself next. So all those things, that any other person turning 30 would deal with, or at that time, just when you're dealing with cancer, it just kind of magnifies it. Yeah, music was something, it would just soothe me and calm me down. And yoga was something I would do every morning, and that was a great asset to my recovery as well.
Yeah, being physically active is really important for recovery.
Yes.
Beside from music and also yoga, were there any other forms of therapy that you maybe used to help you cope, and how effective or not were they for you?
I didn't really have too many I think hanging out with certain friends, being able to be around my friend's dog. Her name is Mila, and there's a lot of love that there's a connection there that is just so unique. So I would go over to their apartment and visit her, and that would help me. Watching comedy, laughing, such a, as much as possible. I wanted to laugh, and I would even laugh at myself because there was other health complications that were going on, and I remember sitting at the pharmacy, and it was always jumping from one doctor to the other, and I just sat there and I was just like, okay, well, this is this is life, and just got to deal with it as it comes. So and I remember I just sat there and kind of laughed at myself. I looked crazy, I know, but when you're just constantly going to the doctors and they tell you one thing and this, you're like, wow, what else can you do? So yeah, I tried to keep it at a level where I didn't overthink it. I wasn't like that person who was reading up on different cases of brain tumors. I just wanted to be as present as possible.
Yeah.
So,
I think there are a lot of similar healing properties between pets and music, right? Because you mentioned the dog, and the dog was providing unconditional love. The dog doesn't know, the dog probably sensed maybe something was wrong, or you were happy one day or not so happy the next. And music is the same way. You listen to a song and it's your own interpretation of the words and the lyrics and what they mean to you.
yes.
Is what's really important. Well, we have somebody that submitted a question that wants to know, and she's Betty Jo from Tuscaloosa, so thanks for this coming question. Betty Jo wants to know, she says she too is a brain cancer survivor, and she wants to get out and be an advocate, but she's not sure about what first steps she should take. She wants to help people and be an advocate for cancer. Can you give her a recommendation on how she should think about getting started?
Oh, absolutely. I would say, actually, today is the last day, the early birds special to attend CancerCon. And so you can save $50 if you buy it today. I recommend starting there because it's just, all walks of life, people from all over the country come together, and you find out about other organizations like Epic Experience, and it's just an amazing experience. And that's, for me, it was like a good, introduction to the young adult cancer community and the cancer community at large. And that's where I just found that purpose of how I can give back also.
So I heard of Comic-Con, and I have not been. I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I plan on going one day. But so CancerCon, tell me about that. People get together, and what happens there? What's the magic that occurs at CancerCon?
Well, there's a lot of different sessions, and they pertain to different issues that survivors, patients, even caregivers are dealing with, and they want certain questions answered. And for me, it was more about the connection of other people dealing with cancer, because a lot of survivors and patients say, I feel like I'm so alone in this. And so you're able to connect with other people who just get it, and you don't feel as misunderstood, or you don't feel the dismissiveness that you'll get from certain doctors who don't have that bedside manner. So it's a way for you to cope and to find how to move forward with your treatments, and you learn about different ways to heal. And so it's very powerful, very moving weekend, and I recommend it to anyone.
Yeah,
really.
So you've been cancer-free for some time now.
Yes. It was 2013, so
Okay.
in June of this year will be 4 years. So.
Okay. So you're sitting here today and you're sharing your story, which is so important, right? Because people who are watching this are going to realize that they're not alone if they're experiencing any type of cancer, quite frankly, any illness. They're not alone, and there are support mechanisms out there. Sitting here today, and you look back on your journey, how does that affect you?
I stay grateful. a lot of people will be like, well, stay positive, but that kind of can drive me crazy at times because it's like, how can you stay positive when you're hearing, oh, there might be something going on here, and you're dealing with this. But I just feel very grateful that I woke up today and I'm here with you guys, and I just always think of the things and that I can just be blessed to have, and I focus on that, and it just gives me like I mentioned before, just a different purpose in life. I try not to complain about the most nonsensical things as much as possible, and yeah, I feel very fortunate.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So, and it's
Yeah.
changed your perspective in life and helping you to feel more grateful. Do you do like a daily affirmation or anything like that?
Yeah, I kind of do, and I say it before I go to bed, and I just simply say I pray for peace, love, empathy, understanding, and to be as mindful and as present as ever. I think when you almost lose your life, like I did, time, you just think about how time is so precious, and you just don't know what's going to happen. So to always make the best out of everything, you know, I do my best to. I mean, I'll still complain. I am human, but I say, wow, I gotta, remember.
Yeah, keep it in check.
Keep it
right?
in check. Yeah.
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 Because you have gone through a lot, and now you're on the other side of this journey, and your advocacy work is so admirable. But now you've released a debut album,
Yes.
right, called Higher Than the Sky. Fantastic. We've listened to it here in the office. We really enjoy it. It's so inspirational.
Thank you.
Take me through, because that had to have been exciting, right? You sit here and you think, man, I had this career, and then all of a sudden, breaks come to a complete stop. Here we are. The whole brain cancer. I get this, hydrocephalus thing going on. What the heck is happening to me? And then now you're here and you've got this debut album. It's got to put a smile on your face. And I think when you say the one word is being grateful, that's what a great word, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about making the album. So now you go, okay, here we go. I'm back at it. I'm going to do this album. What went into this? When you sat down, you started writing the songs. Tell me about that process. What went into it? And because I'm so fascinated by music myself and the power of healing through music, and hearing it from the other side, from a musician and a performer's standpoint, I'm so anxious to hear that.
Well, I started the album before I was diagnosed and any of this happened, and when I was going through my treatments of radiation, it became something new. I was writing from a different place. I was singing from a very different place, and so it became so personal, and I learned how I was writing for myself, and that's why the album came out to be how it was. And if it wasn't for some really great friends of mine that I had met doing a lot of the different gigs I was doing previous to my cancer, we just were like, hey, let's meet up and write a song. And before I knew it, I was putting together an album, and they all were related in a certain way. Each song has a different style to it. So it's very much a pop record, and I always wanted, I can't choose just one genre. I'm influenced by so many artists beyond the ones that I've mentioned before, and so it just was definitely a reflection of how I was feeling, becoming 30 and dealing with cancer, and how certain relationships were affected by that. Mm-hmm. So, it was very much what I was going through at the time, and it just kind of wrote itself in a way. And I'm just so thankful that I had the people in my life to help me just bring out all those ideas, all those melodies. I don't play an instrument really, but I do everything by ear. Sort of like how in a cappella, that's how I would learn my parts, and then I would sing with everyone else. So I would sing the melodies, or sometimes just sing a guitar part, and they would hear me out, and then we would get to work, and it was all done on a computer, basically, home studio style. Some live instrumentation was thrown in there, and there was a lot of actually I made a lot of sounds, just kind of like how a beatboxer would make the sounds of a drum. I would do things here and there to just kind of make the song, give it more of a lush sound. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Paul Simon does that.
Yeah, yeah.
He'll hear a sound. I mean, it could be a horn, or it could be a branch on his, on the window of his tree, and he's got this sound, and he works that sound into a song. It's really an amazing talent.
It is, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So when someone sits down to listen to Higher Than the Sky, what do you hope they'll take away from your album?
I hope that they find a way to have some solace, and find the inspiration to be a better person. A lot of what I speak of is self-love, really, and yeah, I do talk about loss and dealing with negative people that I just had to distance myself from, or just not have in my life anymore, and to show that there's power in that, and when you take the time to think of yourself and really embrace all that you are, and love yourself. That's more than anything what I would love for people to take from it. And Higher Than the Sky, that's sort of a take on people, like that phrase, thinking on a higher ground, that also a Stevie Wonder song. And so through all this experience of dealing with cancer, that was a big thing of mine, just keeping my thoughts on a higher plane, and not letting any kind of negativity sway me, even though that's hard. Sometimes you can find yourself caught in that and get stuck, but always pushing for something better, and it's a choice too. Which was a hard lesson for me. It's a choice to choose to think of a better solution, or just think of something more positive. And so it's a process, I feel we're all works in progress, and no matter what it is that you're dealing with, that we all kind of have to come to grips with that. And there's always, it's up to us, I think, as individuals.
Yeah. Well put. We all are a work in process, aren't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So what's on the music horizon for you?
Well, I'm always going to write music, and it's just a part of me. And so I would love to travel more. I kind of see myself wanting to try different things now. Maybe teaching. I definitely want have thoughts of what I can do more to help cancer survivors heal, and that would be through music and also through theater. I remember I was a vocal teacher for a summer theater program, and I wasn't really used to taking theater classes, but I remember the exercises being so great to help you get to know who you are better. And I think for me, having almost lost my life and being here now, it's just the truth of who I am. It's just so inevitable, and I've learned so much about myself, and I know interacting with other people and having more communication amongst not just cancer survivors, but also just friends, and strengthening, and I think that's so important. So I would love to promote that more, because especially now, this political climate, everything that's going on, it's so great to see people speaking up and voicing their opinion. I know I've heard that a lot of people who deal with cancer or any other kind of illness, they don't want to speak about it, and I know I was kind of like that at first, but meeting the kind of people I met at CancerCon, and going on the kayaking trip with Epic Experience, it really opened me up, and I see how important it is to
Yeah.
to share.
Well, I know I promised you a song, and we're almost there, so hang in there. We're getting close. But I know Courtland has a few more questions that are on her mind.
I absolutely do. So I mentioned, that we met you first at the American Brain Tumor Association 5K, and you
Yes.
were just now talking about wanting to be more involved and helping people, current patients and survivors. So what was participating in that day like for you? What did it mean for you?
Well, first and foremost, to be, I'm from New York City, and I've been all over with family, and, at that, where the Intrepid Museum is, it just felt, it was one of the most amazing feelings in the world, especially my sister and her husband. They were late, but they heard me from the street, I think right off of 11th Avenue, which is just across the street. They could hear me, and there was something so neat about that. And to know that she's like, yeah, your voice was like filling the streets of New York. And there was just an instant connection with people. I remember looking to some people's faces, and not having met them yet or never seen them in my life, and I'm like, I get it. I know what you're going through. And so it was a really beautiful moment, just a day I'll never forget.
So
Yeah.
how can our audience find out more about you, and where can we go to get your album?
You can go to my website. It's angelrayoflight.com, and the Ray is spelled R-E-Y, one word, and you can read my bio, and my cancer story is there. In addition to my album, Higher Than the Sky, you can purchase the single Stepping Forward, which all the proceeds go to Stupid Cancer.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Well, without further ado,
Okay.
we would like to present to you Angel Rey performing your hit song, Stepping Forward, with our very own Cody Kellogg.
Okay, let's do it. Stepping forward into the unknown, don't know what's waiting on the other side. How this happened, other what concept, this equation don't add up, I can't imbibe or even know how I should feel. So I'm stepping forward into the unknown, don't know what's waiting on the other side. I wish this was it, real life, or tell me I'm dreaming. Stepping forward to the unknown, don't know what's waiting on the other side. They got the questions, they got the insight, but there's nothing concrete for me to rely. Oh, what is this world that I'm now living in? Stepping forward into the unknown, don't know what's waiting on the other side. Stepping forward into the unknown, don't know what's waiting on the other side. So I'm stepping forward
'cause I know I'll make it to the other side. Stepping forward into the unknown, don't know what's waiting on the other side. Stepping forward to the unknown, to the other side.
Thank you to Cody.
Wow, very powerful. And Commander, very well done. Thanks for stepping in. If you need backups anytime, call on me. I sing a little bit, mostly in the shower. It's not very good, but I'm always there for you. And thank you so much for all the work you do. It's people like you that really step out and that make a difference. And today, you've changed our lives.
Oh, thank you very
So
much.
thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, well, that wraps it up. I'd like to thank you for tuning in. I'd like to thank our sponsors for making this all possible. And remember, all of our episodes can be viewed on demand, including this one at healthy0360.com. Our podcast is always found in the iTunes store. Well, Courtland, what about our social media?
Well, we love social media, and we're all over Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest using the hashtag #RealStories when posting, and we'd greatly appreciate it if you would do the same. On behalf of Dave Duplay, myself, and the entire Healthy0360 family, we'd like to thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Stepping forward into the unknown, don't know what's waiting on the other side. How this happened, of a concept, this equation don't add up.